Hello again, this is Sam Houston, and welcome to My Front Porch. Tragedy strikes a small town. On Monday evening, my wife and I had finished dinner and were settling in to watch a recording of the national news when my phone rang. The number and the name identified the caller as the general manager of our newspaper in Gatesville. I could not think of a newspaper reason for her to call that evening, and my heart stopped for a beat, wondering if something was wrong with her or her family. When I pushed the button to start the conversation, Janice was out of breath and spoke very rapidly. She exclaimed, "I just got a call that the newspaper office is on fire, and smoke is coming out from the bail bonds office next door. I'm heading there right now. I'll call you when I know something." With that, she hung up to continue her trip to the Gatesville Square and the offices of the Gatesville Messenger. I slid back on my chair and took a deep breath. I had an intuition that this was not going to end well. My wife started asking me questions as she'd overheard my conversation, and all I could say was, "I don't know yet. The fire just started. I'm waiting to find out more. I'm not sure if I'll have to go to Gatesville tonight or not." My mind raced to all the possible scenarios and consequences. Maybe 5 more minutes passed, and Janice called again, and simultaneously I received a video she had sent by phone. It displayed the front of the Gatesville Messenger building and the buildings that adjoined it on either side. It was clear there was smoke coming out of the bail bonds building located to the south of the Messenger. Pictures speak 1,000 words. The sound of Janice's voice revealed someone under severe stress. It trembled and she spoke in quick gasps, trying to describe the situation. She repeated multiple times, "Oh my God, Sam, the fire keeps getting bigger." I was advised that no employees were in the building, so I was not concerned about the safety of any staff member. But then my concern shifted to the Messenger building and to the square itself. I instructed Janice to call me back in 15 minutes while I called the owner of the paper to give him the news. Time was short and everything was moving so very quickly. Do I jump in the truck and drive the 5 miles to Gatesville? If I do I need to take clothes and plan on spending the night? What is my schedule for tomorrow? What changes to my day am I going to need to make? What good am I going to be able to do when I get there? How am I going to break the news to the owner? What thoughts are running through the minds of my staff? I made the call to ownership, and after learning all the staff were safe, their concern was for the square and the people of Gatesville. He told me to keep him apprised, and then I got another phone call from Janice. Flames were now coming through the roof of the Messenger, and the fire had spread down the block to the historic Laird's furniture store. Firefighters from all over the county were on the scene and pouring water on the blaze, but it was obvious the firefighters were fighting a losing battle. The flames got higher, and concerns moved from the 3 buildings on the west side of the square to prevent the fire from spreading to the historic Coryell County Courthouse and the rest of the square. Finally, I instructed my staff to go home. There was nothing they could do but leave it in the hands of the firefighters. They told me there was no reason for me to drive to Gatesville that night, and I agreed. I would make the drive early the next day, knowing sadly in the morning of the daybreak would bring a new day for the Messenger and the entire courthouse square. Sleep was very sporadic that night. I remember being thankful that no one had been hurt and the fire had been contained on the west side of the square. I pondered insurance and what coverage might be, what had started the fire, and all the tasks before me, working my way through the effects of the fire. I worried about my staff and what they might be feeling. Janice had worked for more than 30 years at the Messenger, starting at age 17, and she'd never had another job. What were her thoughts that night? What was the owner feeling as he contemplated his investment going up in smoke? When I arrived in Gatesville very early the next morning, I met my staff and attempted to comfort them. Looking at the scene, it was obvious all three buildings on the west side of the square were a total loss, along with all the contents. It was a real gut check, and it was hard to truly understand all the emotions going through my mind. I was thankful for the wonderful work of the firemen and their dedication to service. I received call after call from fellow newspaper professionals wondering how they could assist me. The mayor, the county judge, and the school superintendent all spoke to either me or the staff and expressed their sorrow for our loss and offering whatever help they might be able to provide. There were strangers who came up and hugged my neck and told me they were sorry this had happened. I know Janice's phone blew up with people calling expressing their heartfelt sympathy and concerns. It was obvious from what I saw and what I read on social media, the entire community had suffered a real kick in their gut. The look of Gatesville had changed in a flash, and had once been landmarks on the west side of the square were simply no longer there. The Messenger had reported the news in Coryell County for 145 years, one of the oldest newspapers in Texas. It reported the events of the town and the county, and the people who lived there. It had been at council meetings, at ball games, and graduations. It respectfully reported the people who had died there. It was as much a part of the community as any other landmark in the city, and maybe even more so. We should all mourn her loss. This is all too new to know what the future holds. The message today is understanding how fast our world can change and how things we value and love can disappear in an instant. Enjoy your friends and family. Treasure all that has slipped from the present to the role of cherished memories. Thought for the day. Look at this as a clean slate. We're moving to a new place to make new memories while forever holding tight to our honored past. Until next time, I'll keep riding the storm.
You've been listening to From My Front Porch with Sam Houston. Brought to you by the Granbury Theater Company. You can catch Sam's column every week in the print edition of the Gatesville Messenger or online at gatesvillemessenger.com.